Hi, I'm Jules from Juliette Pécaut Designs. I'm a knitwear designer, knitting teacher, and slow fashion advocate based in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to my channel. I am passionate about knitting with intention, and I wanted to talk about that more in video form, hence this channel. I don't really know if I'm going to call this a podcast or a vlog or a knitting diary. I'm probably just going to call it my channel for now until I have a better word for it. I want it to be more than just talking about what I'm currently knitting. I do want to discuss what I've been knitting and what I'm wearing and what I'm designing with you, but I also want to address topics like sustainability in knitting, how I incorporate that into my work, what knitting with intention means to me, and hopefully we can build a community of people who are also passionate about slow knitting and intentional making, and we can share resources and just encourage each other on this journey. I think there's this pressure in the fiber arts world to produce a lot of finished objects and content, and I worry that it's kind of turning what used to be this very slow craft into this like fast-paced competition almost to see who can make the most, finished garments at the end of the month. And I kind of want to combat that. There's nothing wrong with knitting fast. I think a lot of people just naturally knit fast. And there's nothing wrong with spending all your free time knitting. That's basically what I do. But I just don't like the idea that we need to be constantly making something new, and we need to get to the next project, and and to have content for Instagram or YouTube or whatever. I think I want to challenge the idea that we can't, talk about a whip for 3 weeks in a row. I think that's totally fine, I think it's interesting to see sort of the more real process of knitting of, oh yes, I'm actually further behind on this whip than I was last week because I had to rip it back and start over. I think there's sort of this idea that ripping things back is like it's a failure, and I do not agree. I think it's great to rip things back and to even start over, because I think it shows a real commitment to making a thoughtful, finished piece that you will actually use and wear. I think it's kind of silly to just sort of keep plugging along and then end up with something you don't really like or isn't going to fit you right. I think it's great to take it slow, and to not race to the finish line, and to really just be much more thoughtful about what and how we are making. I think there's a lot of hesitancy in the slow fashion movement and slow making movement. People are hesitant to get involved because they're worried about being judged or shamed for their less than sustainable practices. And I want this to be a space free of judgment, free of shame. I don't want to make anyone feel bad for wherever they are along their journey. It's a very slow process to slow down your consumption. And it's hard. It's very hard to change those habits. These habits have been, drilled into us since we were children of, well, if you're feeling bad, buy something, that kind of thing. And I think it's very, very difficult to sort of rewire your brain to move away from that. I think there's a lot of trend chasing happening in knitting right now. There's always, a few really popular patterns that everybody is knitting. And I think that's great. If you want to knit a popular pattern, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just important to analyze why you want to knit that pattern. Is it because you really want that piece in your wardrobe, or is it because you see everybody else doing it and you feel like you should too? I think that kind of mentality can be pretty damaging, especially with a hobby such as knitting that takes so long to knit a garment. It's really important to use that time wisely and to not waste your time and your money on knitting a garment that you're not really going to wear or that just isn't your style, So while I think that, I love seeing all the popular patterns, I love seeing how knitters do different things with that same pattern, I think it's important to just really examine your decisions on why you're choosing to knit that pattern, and to maybe just put a little more thought in up front before you dive into a project. So I hope that all vibes with you. If it does, then I think you're in the right place. Welcome. I'm excited to be on this journey together. And you know, I'm still learning as well. I'm not perfect. I'm not an expert on sustainability. I am just trying my best like the rest of us. And so I think we can really work together and help each other on this journey. But because this is also a knitting channel, I do want to share with you what I am wearing and what I'm knitting, and some recent finished objects. So let's get into that. So I am wearing my own pattern. It's the Hometown Harbor pattern, and it is not released yet. I finished knitting this sample in December, and it's now March, and I wanted to get a test knit out, but the release date was then going to end up in like late spring, early summer, and I didn't really want to release a bulky unspun sweater in the summer. So I'm actually going to wait to start the test knit this autumn, well, late summer, to hopefully then release the pattern this autumn. But just to give you a little bit of a preview, it's knit with unspun wool. So this is, it's a pencil roving essentially. So it hasn't been actually spun into yarn yet. So it can easily pull apart. So you do have to be careful when you're knitting with it, but it's an unspun wool. It's the Woolen Twine Thrive yarn. And I believe this color is called Rye. I don't know that the colors are necessarily repeatable though, because I believe she gets the yarn from various farms around Germany, and none of it's dyed, so it's all just like the natural sheep's color. So I don't know that colors are repeatable, but this is the Rye colorway, and it's this beautiful dark grayish brown. I don't know if you can see it in the light. But it's super cozy. I've actually held it together with the Knitting for Olive silk mohair in the color Bark, which is pretty much the same shade of brown. I didn't want to do any contrast really. I wanted them to just be kind of a cohesive color. And the silk mohair just lends some strength to that unspun, so it doesn't break as easily as you're knitting. But this is a top-down raglan. It's got a big fold-over collar, so I usually fold that inward. It's got long ribbing at the sleeves, and then just a little like rolled cuff there. Because the other thing about unspun is if you want to do a sewn bind off, it's really, really difficult to do that because the yarn breaks so easily. So I didn't want to do a sewn bind off, but I wanted to kind of hide the bind off because bind offs can be kind of messy. And so I decided on this little rolled brim. And let me just stand up so you can see. It's about hip length, and it's just got a little bit of ribbing here at the bottom. And it's got a lot of ease. It's just big, it's cozy. I can wear like a long sleeve shirt underneath it when it's really cold out. Right now I just have it on over a tank top because it's actually surprisingly warm for March in Boston right now. But I can layer it over, I often layer it over another wool turtleneck. So I have a more close fitting wool turtleneck from Woolex that I wear underneath it when it's really, really cold out, and that keeps me super, super cozy. So that's what I'm wearing. Hometown Harbor. Look out for that test call coming late summer, midsummer. Join my newsletter if you want to know when that test call is coming, because my newsletter is always the first to know about anything. Sales, test knits, pattern releases, all of it, that goes to my newsletter first. So now I want to show you some recently finished designs. So this is my off the grid pullover. It's a drop shoulder, minimal ease, so it has a couple of inches of ease, and it's just a sort of plain little, slightly cropped jumper with this cool grid pattern on it. And then the collar and the cuffs and everything are just a little 1x1 twisted rib. You can see that. And it's this beautiful green yarn from Imperial Yarns. This is their Denali yarn, which is 50% alpaca and 50% wool. And this color is sagebrush, and it's this gorgeous sage green. And I actually don't have anything in my wardrobe that's this color, so I'm really excited about this piece because I love this color, and I've really been wanting something in this color, and so this is just the perfect sort of casual but kind of classy jumper. So that is currently in testing. That's the off the grid pullover, and it will be released hopefully in May if all goes to plan. So again, get on my mailing list if you want to be the first to know about that. This is another recently finished garment. This actually doesn't have a name yet. It is just a very straightforward V-neck vest. It's got a little split hem here. And it's knit in Great Bay Wool Works. I believe it's their worsted weight yarn. The yarn actually didn't have a name. Great Bay Wool Works is a New Hampshire based farm, I believe. And they have absolutely gorgeous farm yarn. And this is all wool from their flock. And it's this beautiful marled color. So it's sort of an undyed cream marled with a warm brown, kind of a gray brown. And I don't know what to call it yet, actually. I was thinking, I have another vest pattern that is very similar to this, except it's not a V-neck and it has less positive ease, and it also doesn't have the split hem. And that pattern is called Simply the Vest. And I was thinking of calling this something along the lines of Simply the Vest V-neck version, because it is just a really simple vest. And that's just a great name, if I do say so myself. I was pretty proud of myself for that one. So as for what I'm knitting currently, I am working on this cable and lace cardigan. So as you might be able to see, it's a bottom-up cardigan. This is, I've just split for the front and back here, as you can see. So I'm just now working on the back. And it's just these stripes of cables and these little lace panels. This yarn is the Knit Picks Gloss DK, and it's their Bear colorway, so it's undyed. And this is a 70% merino, 30% silk blend. So I'm hoping that this is going to be just a nice, light, sort of summery cardigan, perfect for cooler evenings in the summer or, you know, spring nights. It's a very soft, easy to wear, close to your skin yarn. And with the lace detail, I think that just makes it a little more summery, a little more, you know, warm weather appropriate. So I'm hoping to get this pattern finished and tested soon so that I can release the pattern in early summer, so that there's still time for people to knit a nice summer cardigan before it gets too cold again in the fall. So those are the things that I have coming up. I am also working on an update to my tattoo socks formula pattern. That's my 2 at a time toe-up socks. And I released that pattern in the summer of 2021, I believe. And it's just a pretty basic toe-up, 2 at a time sock pattern with a fleagle heel. It's written as a formula, so you can use any weight yarn at any gauge, and you just insert your numbers into the pattern, or you can just fit it as you go, which is my preferred method. And then you'll end up with a perfectly fitting sock. I am updating the pattern to include some better yarn guidelines because at the time that I wrote it, I used a lot of superwash merino, which is kind of like marketed as kind of the best sock yarn. And I've been finding in my own personal sock drawer that the superwash merino socks are the first to wear out. So I've been experimenting with a few other yarns. If you're committed to superwash, I think a superwash Highland wool or a superwash BFL works a lot better than a merino. Merino is not as tough as socks usually need to be. I've also been experimenting with a lot of non-superwash wools, non-superwash and no nylon sock yarns, which are harder to find, but I've been testing those out and they've been working really well for me. So I'm going to update the yarn guidelines in that pattern, and then I am also going to add an option for a different short row heel, because as much as I love the Flegel heel, it doesn't really allow you to do a contrast heel, not a full contrast heel, because you do need to knit the instep as you're increasing for the heel. So I'm going to include an option for a different short row heel that will allow you to do a fully contrast heel. And I'll insert some pictures of what I'm talking about somewhere around my face so that you'll know what I'm talking about. But yes, so I'll be re-releasing that pattern soon. And I'm really excited to share that with you. The first weekend in March, I went to the Wayland Farmers Market Farm Fiber Day out in Wayland, Mass. I got to see some of my favorite farms and yarn companies like Wing and a Prayer Farm, Prado de Lana, Junction Fiber Mill, Blue Heron Farm, Sabito Farm, and Herd Supply Co. I dropped off my On the Farm cowl sample to Tammy at Wing and a Prayer. My sample is made from their sister's yarn, but it works really well in a variety of farm yarns. I also got to see Christine's cowl in progress in her Blue Heron farm yarn. I also got some cream-colored Romney wool from Prado de Lana that I'm going to pair with the dark brown Romney I got from them at Rhinebeck last year. I'm going to do some kind of colorwork design with it, but I haven't quite decided what yet. And since the weather was so nice, I took the opportunity to sit outside and knit for a bit. Here I'm wearing my marled Great Bay Woolworks vest and working on a cables and lace cardigan that I hope to be able to show you in the next couple of months. Thanks for coming along to the fiber market with me. So yeah, so that's it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. If you have any feedback, please do let me know. Please be kind, but I do love constructive criticism. If you have any ideas on what you'd like to see more of or what I should talk about next, please do let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. I want this channel to benefit you, so I don't want to just drone on about whatever I want to talk about. I also want you all to have a say in this and to really get something out of this, because that's what I'm here for. So if you have any thoughts, please drop a comment below. Feel free to reach out to me by email, join my mailing list, and follow me on Instagram. I'm very active over on Instagram, and I'd love to hang out with you there as well. But for now, I'll see you later. Bye.